Hello, everyone. Uh, Now we will begin with Module 6, that is the relevance of the Indian knowledge system in the modern world. Before we begin Module 6, we will quickly recapitulate what we understood or what we learned in Module 5. Now, Module 5 had talked about the Indian knowledge system in society, in economy, and in governance. And the Indian knowledge system that we shared in Module 5 largely talked about the social ethics and harmony. The social ethics and harmony included the three, that is the Vama, the Ashrama, and the Dharma. Here we did see that according to our skill set and according to the age that we are at, we were divided into segregations. Each segregation had its own responsibilities and duties which were liable to be performed by any person. Then we had talked about Kautilya's Arthashastra and public administration. Now, Kautilya's Arthashastra, which was formulated in the reign of Chandragupta Maurya, who was the first ruler of the Mauryan Empire. Kautilya was his prime minister, and therefore on him lay the responsibility of good governance. So he formulated the Arthashastra, which did talk about public administration and effective governance, which was equitable. Then we talked about the indigenous models of economy guilds and trade networks. So, guilds were very important in the economy. They played a very crucial part in stabilizing and running the economy well. The trade networks also had to be taken care of, and they had to be successfully run so that the kingdom could do well. The kingdom could benefit, the people who were traders could benefit. Then we talked about the panchayat system and participative governance. So, the panchayat system has been there in the system of old, and they had a very well formulated social body which took care of local affairs of the people, whether it be agriculture, whether it be trade, whether it be economy, and anything which they were unable to decide was put forward to the king's court then. So, with that as a basic foundation, we move on to understanding the relevance of the Indian knowledge system in the modern world. With lesson 6.1 that we are about to read and begin with, we begin with learning environment, wisdom, and sustainable practices. Now, even in the current world, we know that the environment, if it is stable, has a very key perspective in making a society, making an individual also. And the sustainable practices, because if the sustainable practices aren't there, then we cannot prolong our resources. So that we have our resources intact and the practices keep moving, we have sustainable practices. Indian Knowledge System, or IKS, offer a profound and holistic framework for environmental wisdom and sustainable practices. Deeply rooted in ancient philosophies, traditions, and ecological insights. Unlike a purely utilitarian view of nature, IKS emphasizes a harmonious coexistence between humans and the environment, recognizing the interconnectedness of all life forms. Now, when we talk about interconnectedness, we talk about everything. We talk about individual as a being, we talk about the society, we talk about the cultural perspective, we talk about the education of the yesteryears, and the framework that was given to us for governance also. So, all this integrated system continues to contribute to the Indian knowledge system. Looking into the core principles of environmental wisdom in the Indian knowledge system. The very first is ahimsa or non-violence. Though at times like ours, it is a little, there's a little dilemma which goes around ahimsa or non-violence, because so much of violence that we see around does not hold good. It did not have a base then. So it is a practice which we need to concentrate on, the ahimsa or the non-violence. This fundamental principle extends beyond human interactions to encompass all living beings and nature. So it is a basic harmonial kind of a stance, a harmonial kind of a balance with all living beings and the nature that we live in. It promotes reverence for life and discourages exploitation. Whether it is human exploitation, whether it is exploitation of the reserves, the natural resources that we have, fostering biodiversity, conservation, and a balanced relationship with the environment. Then we have the dharma, or the righteous conduct or the duty. Dharma encourages individuals and communities to act responsibly towards nature, recognizing their duty to protect and preserve it for the future generations. Now we have got the environment as a future preserve for us. So we need to preserve it further for the upcoming generations. We were given the nature as a heritage from our former ancestors. And we need to continue and we need to strive to keep it intact. Lok Samagraha, well being of all. So, this guiding principle of the Indian knowledge system emphasizes the welfare of the entire ecosystem, aligning closely with the ethos of Sustainable Development Goals. So, if you know that the UN has come up with certain sustainable development goals for all the participating countries, we need to fall into place with all those 17 goals that have been given to us through the UN. And they are fairly detailed if you can take a look sometime that those what are those goals, what are the applications and the implications of them. Interconnectedness. Ancient texts like the Vedas and Upanishads highlight the intricate web of life, where human well being is intrinsically linked to the health of the natural world. This understanding promotes an ecocentric approach rather than an anthropocentric one. So, ecocentric when we are more bothered about the ecology that we live in. Experiential wisdom. In the previous modules, we have talked that everything that was formulated earlier on was based on experience, was based on truth, was based on a belief system. So, the Indian knowledge system emphasizes learning through direct experience and observation of natural cycles, leading to adaptive and dynamic practices that respond to local ecosystems. Reverence for nature. Many traditional practices and beliefs in India imbue natural elements. What were the natural elements? Rivers, mountains, trees, animals, with sacred significance, fostering a deep respect and spiritual connection to the environment. Now, here going back to the previous module that we talked about, when we talked about the temple architecture, we did see that there was significance which was given to the rivers, to the animals, to the ecosystem that we live in. So it has been there from times immemorial and it will continue to be there because if we do not have a balanced ecological system, our sustenance or a projection is very limited then. Examples of sustainable practices which were rooted in the Indian knowledge system. Water management. So, water management has not been brought about now. Water was managed well then also. They did see the need to manage water resources so that we don't consume, we don't exhaust it all. So, there were step wells or bowlis. Engine is architectural structure designed to collect and store rainwater, providing sustainable water access in arid regions. Now, there still are regions which have a lack of rainfall. It's because of the demographic that they have, like deserts in India, deserts worldwide, which need water. So, if we can harvest rainwater through these step wells or bowlis, it is a big relief during the very arid times of the year. Then we have the johars or the check dams, traditional rainwater harvesting structures that replenish groundwater. So the groundwater table also we know that the table is very gradually going down. And if that table also goes down, we are going to exhaust our water resources of the groundwater also. So, to avoid that, check dams were put into place so that water which was exhausted could be replenished as well. Tank irrigation. Ancient systems for collecting and distributing water for agricultural purposes. Water conservation rituals, traditional practices that encourage mindful use of water resources. We are all in a hue and cry of water shortage these days. Each region, each state is facing that. So, if we depend upon water, we need to talk about water conservation also. Now, here you can see that the step well that is there at Hampi has been so intricately designed that you can see that various steps that led to the water table and how people stored water. Then you can look at a recharging structure or a check dam kind of a thing, which is there in the Palyam Union that is there in South India. So, with basic resources, they have come about building this dam so that they are able to conserve the water, the rainwater that came. A Kalyani. So, that also is kind of a tank that we talked about, an irrigation tank from where you can derive water when you don't have any. Sustainable agriculture. Now, sustainable agriculture talks back of organic farming. Practices like using natural fertilizers, example like the Panchagavya, a concoction derived from 5 cow products and biopesticides. So here you will see that there is nothing which is artificial, nothing which, if formulated, could take back or derive from the resources. This is what purely which was organically, which was made available, and we now also are retrieving back to organic farming. Why? Because that is a healthier way of living. Crop rotation and mixed cropping. Techniques that enhance soil fertility, minimize pest infestation, and maintain biodiversity. So, crop rotation, we know it is very essential so that the fertility of the soil is not exhausted in one go. We have certain crops which require a lot of fertile soil, whereas there are few which do not require not so much of fertile soil. So you have mixed cropping to balance that out, or even crop rotation, where the soil or the ground where they cultivated or tilled the land had some breathing space so that it could gain back whatever it lost in the form of a crop produce. Agroforestry, integrating trees with crops and livestock, contributing to ecological balance. Traditional seed preservation, indigenous methods for saving and sharing seeds, maintaining genetic diversity. So now also if we see that we have so many types of fruits. In one type of a fruit, there are so many varieties. So that all variety is genetically made. Earlier on, it was naturally done, unlike that we are doing it in labs now. So we have to avoid all that, and believe on natural processes. Forest and biodiversity conservation. Sacred groves, which were the Devrai, designated forest areas protected by communities due to their religious or cultural significances, serving as vital biodiversity reserves. Now, the best example that can be provided here for sacred groves are the mango groves, or any grove which is near a water body. So, when we have these groves near a water body, they basically come about stopping soil erosion, hence protecting the area as well as the water body. So, you don't have so much of soil silting the area. Responsible for forest management. Texts like the Arthashastra and Rig Veda emphasize the mindful use of natural resources and forest preservation. So, Arthashastra not only talked about governance, it talked about the basic things or the basic problems that we handle on a day to day basis. Tribal and rural community practices, traditional agroforestry and shifting cultivation, the Jhoom, that maintain ecological balance and ensure sustainable forest use. Now, the tribals. Now, if you notice the tribal life pattern, they have livestock as well. But when they have livestock, they keep moving. So, when they move, they give the previous area a break to grow back, a break to gain fertility again, so that they can later on come back and use the resources again once they have been naturally replenished. Going on to architecture and building. So, Vastu Shastra. Vastu Shastra, we know it is still used by most of us when we are deciding on to build, so that it is in the correct position, it is correctly built according to its structure, so that it can be fruitful. Ancient architectural principles that guide the design of energy efficient structures in harmony with natural forces, reducing environmental impact. Now, if we do use the social media, I don't know how many of you have been seeing. There has been a post of a school in Rajasthan, which is built in a semicircular form, and in that very arid desert, they do not have any electricity connection. Now, if you think of it logically, it is very difficult to sit in an arid region without any electricity connection. No electricity connection would mean no fans, no ACs, nothing of the kind. But they are making best of the resources, they are making best of the architecture. They have built the school in a fashion that ventilates sufficiently, that there is sufficient cooling or there is sufficient rotation of air in the school premises. Natural building materials, use of mud, lime, and other locally available sustainable materials. Now, if we know the property of lime, which is a coolant, can be very useful in arid regions where you need your houses to be cool and not very hot. We need them to maintain that effect and not get heated with the sun rays. So the original raw material that you can see in the picture depicted alongside, found in the archaeological site and used in buildings and decorations, wall paintings with original pigment fragments. Now, what are these pigment fragments? What are these decorations and what are these raw materials? A. Various types of milled ceramic, which was naturally made and not artificially generated. B. Sand. So you can see the various type of sand that there was. Fragment of lime, which was incorporated into wall making. And bricks and stones for floor decoration. So aesthetics were there then also in ancient times, but then they were very conscious of how to go about it, conscious of how the resources were available, and what was the use and the implication later on, the consequences of it. Going on to health and wellness, Ayurveda, we have been talking about it at large in the previous modules also. We have seen how important it was, how it was developed, how only basic resources available then were consumed into Ayurveda. A holistic system of medicine that advocates for the conservation of medicinal plants and promotes a lifestyle in harmony with nature, emphasizing preventive care and natural healing. Yoga, that also we have seen in previous modules, how important it was and how important it continues to be. Practices that promote mental and physical well being, fostering a deeper connection to oneself and the environment. There's a growing recognition of the value of integrating Indian knowledge system with modern sciences and technology to address contemporary environmental challenges like climate change, resource depletion, and biodiversity loss. This collaboration can lead to more holistic, pragmatic, and culturally appropriate solutions for a sustainable future. With that, we come to the end of lesson 6.1. Now, in 6.1, if we just take a quick look at what we just saw and learned, we saw that environment was sustained with whatever little practices or whatever with little resources than the ancient time had. We are reverting back to them yet again. We are reverting back because they were holistic, they were actually sustainable. Something like organic farming. Why are we reverting back to organic farming? Because that helps us as a human. When you eat healthy, you feel healthy as well. Going on to the water resources. With so much of global warming, the water is depleting. The water around us is becoming contaminated because so much of river contamination of chemicals. People are stepping up and volunteering into removal of the waste from these rivers so that they can remain alive and healthy. And alive and healthy, just not for the river. For whom? For us as an ecological system. So we need to learn and take what was given to us as heritage in the ancient form in the Indian knowledge system. Thank you.